Welcome into part 7 of the How to Financially Prepare to Buy a Home. Today, I'm going to reveal the one strategy that solves the number one problem for today's hopeful first-time home buyers: finding a low enough down payment number to finally be able to seriously start your plan. This solution has unfortunately been kept a secret to the general public, and frankly, that infuriates me. So it's time for me to blow the lid off this once and for all, so more of you can know the truth and get the answers and the solution that you deserve.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's happening, my How to Buy a Homies? I am your host, David Sidoni, and I am frustrated. And you know what? That's too light. I am raging. Here's the deal. I have a solution that's worked for tens of thousands of first-time homebuyers for decades, and it should be common knowledge, but unfortunately it's not. So let me first explain what's happening, and then I will reveal to you the simple solution that you can use to buy a home. And if you're coming here and you're looking for the low down payment strategy that me or Unicorn told you about, that crucial information is going to be laid out for you about halfway through the episode. First, let me explain what's going on and why this simple technique is not easy to find in your research, but it truly is the best way to create a home buying strategy for first-time home buyers in any market, but especially in today's market. The new affordability crisis that we're in, this is the solution. But that actually really pisses me off because this should just be the normal procedure taught by everyone in the real estate industry. Last year in 2024, the statistics for first-time homebuyers were proclaimed the worst in the history of real estate. The lowest numbers for first-time homebuyers ever recorded. And nobody did a damn thing about it. Not the government, not the financial institutions, and certainly not anyone in the real estate industry. In 2025, it just got worse. The average age for this year's first-time homebuyer is 40 years old. A full 8 years older than the average that we've had for the last 15 years. But that's not the worst of it. This year's total number of first-time homebuyers, it's estimated it's going to be 38% less than the normal number of buyers. A 38% drop in the people who bought a home and got themselves out of the rent cycle. To put that in perspective, from 2009 to 2022, we averaged 1.78 million first-time homebuyers each year. That means in 2025, 676,000 less people were able to buy their first home. Now, all the blame for this devastating news was placed on the unaffordable housing market, high home prices, and high mortgage interest rates. I call bullshit. The truth is that the real estate industry is not readily sharing the solution for first-time home buyers. The secret that shouldn't be a secret. High home prices and high interest rates are not the deterrent holding back first-time home buyers. That's total bullshit. There's a simple solution that hundreds of thousands have used, but it's not profitable for the real estate and lending companies to teach it. So millions of perfectly capable first-time home buyers are left in the dark. That sucks. So I'm channeling all of my white-hot rage into empathy and compassion. For you who have been overlooked and ignored, millions of you are being fed horseshit. What's happening is the lack of service offered to first-time homebuyers by the entire real estate industry is just criminal. They have the solution, they have the answer, but they have done nothing to correct this crisis since they built their entire empire on serving the sellers and ignoring you first-time homebuyers. And you've been fed misinformation at an alarming rate. This year, I have actually listened to the so-called leaders of the real estate industry commenting on how tough it's recently been for the first-time homebuyers, and they're hampered by the high prices and the high interest rates. And they're telling this to millions of realtors and lenders and news outlets, letting them know that, you know what, it's just too costly for them to get a down payment and closing costs. Bullshit. And shame on you. I have thousands of examples of people using these tactics that I'm going to explain to you today to find affordable entry into home ownership. But big real estate doesn't make any money there. They make more money by licensing crappy realtors, giving them no training on these solutions and the options that first-time homebuyers need in this economic climate. You're hearing the wrong message from untrained people who have zero comprehension on the tools available to help first-time homebuyers find affordable solutions. The big real estate and lending companies, they'd rather play the numbers game, to boost their profits, hiring incompetent people, and here we are today with a simple solution for first-time homebuyers hidden from most of you. That's a travesty. So I'm here to reveal this secret that shouldn't be a damn secret. Don't believe the unaffordability hype that you hear from today's housing headlines or subreddits or your uncle. It's not impossible. You have the options and you can do this. All right, that's the end of my rage rant. Sorry, it's such bullshit and you deserve better. And I promise that was the last bullshit. Now let's get to the solutions. All right, first up, of course, we acknowledge the high prices and the high interest rates. But what that means is just that the landscape has changed. And it doesn't mean that you can't climb the mountain and get out of the rent trap. You just need the right guide. You need a Sherpa to get up that mountain. It takes skilled professionals to enlighten you with the real options that first-time homebuyers have in today's new economy. So here's how you do it. The math that most people find when they're researching to figure out, hey, can I even buy a home? All the stuff that you find out there, that math, that information you're given, it's wrong. That's the first problem. The total amount of money it takes for first-time homebuyers with their down payment and their closing costs, it can actually be reduced by 50% up to 75% and sometimes even more from what you find when you research on your own. And if you don't know this is an option to reduce it by that much, when you see that number when you're researching, heck yeah, it's going to be overwhelming. So I hear all the time how would-be buyers see that beast of a number and then they decide the only option they have is to wait for the market to adjust down a little bit so that they can afford it. Now that seems logical, but since 2013, the math in this strategy, trying to wait it out, it's going to lose you more money than it's going to make you. So using this secret that shouldn't be a damn secret, there's math that opens up the option to stop renting sooner and start building wealth. First, I'm going to give you that affordable math for all you do-it-yourselfers. Those of you who have small savings and no potential for a family gift or some sort of big influx of money to add to your savings. Then I'm going to go over to the affordability secret for you people who already have some savings or you have the option for some family assistance or have some big money coming your way. All right, first up, you do-it-yourselfers. Those of you out there buying without big or even medium savings, without any big chunk of money coming your way, and no family that's going to be able to give you the funds. You can lower that beast of an entry number that you see when you research on your own by 50 to 75% and sometimes even more. This should be common knowledge. The standard answer you get when you ask, how much money do I need to buy a home? I'm telling you, it is enormously overblown by people who don't understand how this whole process works. Now, these huge reductions happen by utilizing your first-time homebuyer specialized lender, helping you find a way more affordable loan program that most lenders don't know about, including one of the several low down payment options that you might qualify for. Or you've got your first-time homebuyer specialized realtor that's going to negotiate monetary seller credits to you. That's direct cash back to you that you don't have to save up for. Or you have the option of utilizing down payment assistance grants or programs, which, by the way, you can use more than one for your purchase, getting you double, sometimes even triple the money. Or another technique is using a mortgage interest rate buy down to lower the monthly payments. Now, here's the math that we see every day at How to Buy a Home. And when you hear this and you understand this is a daily occurrence, and this is what happens when you know the secret, it's going to be real exciting. Okay, here's the wrong math that you find. Let's say you're researching on your own and you're trying to buy a $450,000 home and you want to figure out how much is it going to cost. Well, online it's going to tell you need a 20% down payment at today's interest rate of 6.31%, which is going to cost you $90,000 in down payment. Your closing costs are going to be between $8,000 and $13,000, and the cost of the monthly payment is going to be about $2,700. Wrong. And of course, that's impossible for many people, but don't worry about it because it's wrong. So if you're looking at those numbers for a $450,000 home, you got to come up with $100,000 to pay $2,700 a month, and you're going to need to make $90,000 a year for the correct debt to income calculation. Okay, quick side note before I get to the good news. These calculations, they come from your standard online mortgage calculator, which are garbage and another abomination that the real estate industry has all wrong. Check out episode 180 about mortgage calculators being garbage? That's in the show notes. All right, so the recap. $450,000 home, you need $100K, the payment's $2,700. Now, with numbers like that, of course, tons of people out there feel disheartened. I mean, think about the people who are renting right now for $2,200 a month and they've only got $10,000 saved. Those people are 90 grand short. And even if you had that 90 grand to put it down, your new monthly payment's going to go up $500 a month. Why the hell would you even consider taking the next step? Once you get those numbers, bam, you're done. I get it. And that's what's so deflating to me when I see so many people give up and just keep paying rent and they pray that things are going to get more affordable and someday the numbers are going to work for them. But again, the good news is those numbers are wrong. That math is wrong. With the true math, using one or a combination of the options that I mentioned earlier, the first-time homebuyer specialized low down payment loan programs, down payment assistance grants and programs, mortgage interest rate buydowns, or seller credits negotiated by your awesome realtor that get cash back to you. Here's the math that 90% of the real estate industry isn't qualified or trained to share with you. In the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025, the worst 2 years for first-time homebuyers ever, when it was proclaimed that it was impossible to do this because of the high prices and the high mortgage rates. We have consistently coached thousands of buyers who bought $450,000 homes, and I went back and looked at it. The average all-in complete for their down payment and closing costs, $25,000. And the monthly payment averaged $2,800 full principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That is the reality. That's what should be taught nationwide. This is what needs to be explained to aspiring first-time homebuyers. And that number right there, that's just the average. We have several stories of people who used a combination of those affordability tools who bought their first starter home all in for as little as $10,000, $5,000, $3,000, and one couple who, after all their credits, when they got to the closing table, when they got to their closing, they paid $120.95 to buy their first home. Now, of course, that's not going to work out for everybody, but the fact that it's 50 or 75% lower than what you find when you look online, that's the message I want to get out to everybody. None of the people that use these techniques, none of them are feeling house poor today, and none of them regret their buying decision because in order to do this, they spent more time planning with a specialized real estate support team than they did shopping for homes on Zillow. They did things in the correct order. And because of that, they know exactly what their numbers are way early. And then they were so prepared well before they went home shopping that they understood these are the options, these are the possibilities, and this is the math. And they don't just know the math at the time of the purchase. They know the math for the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Okay, now I'm going to move to the next group of people. I know on the show I do things for the national average all the time at $400,000, and I tell you guys to do the math. But in this case, there are some strategies with this low down payment technique that a lot of people in high cost of living areas, this is stuff you need to hear. So people looking at homes from $600,000 to $1 million or more. And of course, they're a little bit different. But when you use some of these techniques, it can create drastic reductions in the total cash that you need to make a purchase. And for this next example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an example of people who have medium to big savings, or perhaps they're expecting a gift from family or a large sum of money coming their way. For the past 20 years, I've been coaching first-time homebuyers. If they have the means to buy a home and they've got funds for 20%, I make sure they understand they look at the strategic technique of using a low down payment strategy. I had to do this because I was selling homes in Southern California when, since 2006, I've been teaching this to battle the affordability issue because we always have the affordability issue. So this technique has been tested, fine-tuned, and implemented with stellar success. So let me break down a couple examples for you, and then I'll get into all the math, the analytics, and the details behind it. Way back in 2019 on the podcast, I discussed on an episode how this could work for a VA buyer. Now, a VA is a veterans loan program for active or retired military, and for them, the low down payment technique, it is an absolute no-brainer. VA loans can use zero down payment, and they do not have PMI, private mortgage insurance. So that opens up tons of different options for them to get into a home as quickly as possible and start their rent replacement strategy. So for these guys, I am going to use that $400,000 example because it's a great way for you to learn how this works at the national average, and then we'll get into the high cost of living stuff. Now, let's say that you're a veteran or a active military person, and you've got almost $80,000 saved, which is 20% down. The tactical low down payment strategy, it looks like this. On a $400,000 purchase, 20% down payment, $80,000. 10% is $40,000. Now, most people go, oh, I'm going to put the most I can down because that's going to save me money. Well, the savings that you think that you get by putting a bigger down payment is mathematically ridiculous when you compare it and know the real numbers. Putting the full 20% down, $80,000, it only saves you $250 a month more than if you put 10% down and kept $40,000 in the bank. Something that you use for renovations, emergencies, or whatever you want. Having that $40,000 in the bank means that you would never feel that extra $250 a month when you've got a $40,000 slush fund to supplement that extra that you have to pay every single month. And I say extra with very sarcastic air quotes. Now let's keep going with this, because as you start to see the math change for each example, you're going to see how it could potentially work for you no matter what your personal situation is. If you really want to leverage a low down payment technique, let's imagine that VA buyer decides to put zero down, keeping $80,000 in the bank. Oh, I can't do that, David. That doesn't make any sense. All right, well, the monthly payment's only going to be $500 a month more. So with 80 grand in the bank, you've got 13 years that you could use your slush supplemental fund to pay the extra $500 a month. That's the basic principle. And if you still think it's not the smart move, my friend math says otherwise. And I have 20 years of examples to show you that this is your way to beat today's affordability challenge and get yourself into the game sooner, which creates so many more long-term benefits for you. Emotionally, think about the benefits for that, but also financially. The math is solid. And your best way to gain your true financial leverage and make more money in your first home purchase is to get in as quickly as you can using one of these techniques. Now, in episode 300, I go into great detail with an example. It was someone that I nicknamed Spartacus. Not really sure why. You're going to have to go back and listen to it. It's in the show notes, but I'm going to go through the highlights right now. But again, if you need to go deep, listen to episode 300. So Spartacus was one of these high cost of living examples. And this is where most people think, well, those low down payment options work great down in the 300 and 400, but not here. Okay, well, let's run the numbers. All right, the first thing that happened was he had run his numbers with a family friend who was a lender, and immediately he was concerned about the high monthly payment. What they were looking at were $750,000 homes with 20% down. So it was $150,000, but that got him a mortgage payment of $5,600. And that was above their goal of $5,200 a month. So he wondered, hey, David, how much do I have to keep saving so I can put it into the loan and get down to our target number of $5,200? So I suggested this. Why not just put 10% down? Now you got $75,000 in the bank. Now, at the time of this episode, I think interest rates were at 7%. So what that meant for him mathematically was the larger loan, 10% versus 20%, yeah, it was going to cost $700 more a month, plus $150 a month in PMI. More on PMI in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra $850 to that payment. Now, it was $5,600 originally, and he only wanted to pay $52. So now we're adding $850 to $5,600. Okay, math majors, this is $1,250 more than he wanted to pay. $1,250 more. But here's the thing. They've got 10% in the bank, $75,000 liquid in their savings account. So each month you could draw $1,250 from the $75,000 to pay the extra. And then you could keep the same lifestyle. You could be living at that $5,200, which you've already budgeted for. Drawing $1,250 a month from $75,000, that would last for 60 months. That's 5 years. Now, in a minute, I'll go into all the numbers of how that really works, but I wanted you to see how the actual math of just the formula making it possible for you. So this is an example of how you can use the privilege of PMI to fund a growing asset sooner so you're going to reap more returns while also keeping yourself with attainable liquid reserves, which you can access monthly to offset the higher monthly payment. And as the years progress and the new payment gets easier for you, you also have the option to restructure your financial picture with the luxury of having that money available in cash, not locked up in the home. And this is just the basic principle of the system. We didn't even calculate in the potential to refinance later when the interest rates go down, which means a much lower payment, likely even below that $5,200 original target number, depending on how deep the rates go down since you're buying at such a high rate. The other thing too is, oh, by the way, you're going to be able to do that refinance while you have tens of thousands of dollars in the bank to do whatever you want with. We also didn't discuss that you don't keep PMI forever. PMI drops off your home once it reaches a 20 or technically a 22% equity position. And since you put 10% down, that means your home only has to go up 12% to drop PMI. And these are just a couple of examples that I shared this secret solution over the years here on the podcast. Now, I'm going to nerd out and get even more into the details for you, all supported by the math. For high cost of living areas, here's some math for you. Before I did this podcast, I researched 10 metro areas. This is where homes are going for about $800,000. The 10 cities were Seattle, Boston, Arlington, Virginia, DC, Oakland, California, Long Beach, California, Honolulu, New York City, Santa Ana, California, Ventura, California. I told you, we've been doing this on affordability stuff in California forever. And the 10th one was Scottsdale. In those areas, a monthly payment on an $800,000 home, if you're using today's 6.31% interest rate and you put 20% down, that's a $4,375 a month payment and $160,000 that you need to bring in for your down payment. 10%, that's going to cost you $4,870. Did you hear that? $4,375 or $4,870, a difference of $495 a month. Now we're also going to throw in the PMI, usually around about $100 to $150, which you don't pay forever. Remember that. I mean, if you're putting 10% down in just 3 years of 4% appreciation, and it's going to drop off. And if you don't quite understand that, all that math for the PMI and how it eventually goes away, check out episodes 198, PMI is a privilege, and episode 216, PMI, still a privilege and still not the devil. Quick little side note here. I know that for many of you, you have been told big bad PMI is the reason that you never want to put 20% down. It's wasting money. It's so stupid. Well, since day one of my career and day one of this podcast, I have been pleading for aspiring first-time home buyers to take a look at the math and see how silly the math is that supports that statement. It's old school, it's archaic, it's Jurassic. All right, let me get back to the high cost of living math. $800,000 home with 20% down, or you keep $80,000 and you're going to pay $495 difference in the loan amount, and you're going to pay $150 a month for PMI. So that difference for $80,000 in the bank is $645 a month. You can supplement that now for over 10 years. I did the math. It was 10.3 years. All right, now, this is the math that should bring you some comfort if this whole thing freaks you out a little bit. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in those 10 cities, $3,000. For a small 3-bedroom home, $4,000. All right, so let's say you're in one of those, $3,000 a month or $4,000 a month, and you've got $100,000 saved. But you do want to put 20% down on a home because you heard that that's the cheapest way to do it, and so you've got to wait another year or two to get up to the full $160,000, which is 20% on an $800,000 home. Cool. That means if you're in a $3,000 a month apartment, each year you try to save up that $60,000, you're going to lose $36,000 a year, $72,000 over 2 years, and keep going on the math and the math. If you're in a swanky apartment at $4,000, or you're in one of those homes, it's $4,000 a month. Now you got $48,000 a year, or $96,000 for 2 years, and you're going to need that time because you're saving up a big chunk of money. So this is the part where I say, all right, so do I have to tell you any more? Well, too bad. I'm gonna, because there's more math. So in that example, you got to save up $60,000. So if that takes you a year or two or more, you're going to lose the appreciation of the home while you wait. And at 4% on an $800,000 home, that's $32,000 a year. So what if you're in that $4,000 a month home or swanky apartment, $48,000 a year in rent, $96,000 a year in rent. Well, now $32,000 a year you lose in appreciation, and then the next year, $64,000 you lose in appreciation. So that would mean you lost $96,000 you paid in rent plus $64,000 that you lost on the home appreciation in those 2 years that you were trying to save up $60,000 so that you could save, wait for it, $150 a month. And you know what? There's more math too, because you're also going to lose 1, 2, 3 years, depending how long it takes for you to save, of homeowner tax benefits. Now, they vary from state to state, but man, they can be really substantial. Take a look and you can get some ballpark numbers for yourself in episode 370, First-Time Homebuyer Tax Benefits. We'll put that one in the show notes. Don't mistake my passion for being some snarky investment bro going, dude, no way, this is the way you make money. I have no idea who talks like that or why I did that, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are shysters and selling all kinds of crazy crap to try to get you to do something from their workshop or seminar, or just trying to be condescending and tell you, oh, what are you thinking, man? And look, when it comes to buying a home, everybody's got an opinion. There are some people that say, always pay off your home as fast as you can. And there are other people who say, never pay off your mortgage, leverage it. It's cheap money. So all I've done is taken the time to help people who are struggling with the affordability to realize that they can get into a home sooner. It's simple math. And the way it differs from any other investment strategy is that you're not using extra money to pay for this. You're using the full portion of the rent money that you already spend monthly with no return, and you get mathematically far better financial gains, plus the emotional benefits of taking control of your life and owning the place where you live. In several other podcast episodes, because I've been preaching this from day one that I got on the mic, I've discussed other methods for people in high cost of living areas to make buying a home more affordable for them, because it's crazy in those places. Now, in this series, I actually talked to you about using your retirement funds to diversify your portfolio by adding a real estate asset. And, you know, that asset, it also happens to be the place where you sleep. And it works as a rent replacement strategy using the money that's not going towards anything. There's a reason that I've been calling buying a home since the early 2020s when I started this a rent replacement strategy, because it illuminates the mentality of using your funds for you. And the sooner you can do that, the more gains that you will see. I discuss the mindset of renting versus buying, all on a monthly level. And if you're looking at things just based on monthly numbers of how much your rent is versus how much a mortgage is going to be, there's a whole detailed discussion about the mindset of renting versus owning. And it's not like a fluffy feel-good mindset thing. It's straight up math, so you can change your mindset. That's episode 355, Rent versus Buy. Put that one in the show notes. I've also discussed in other episodes changing your monthly contributions to your retirement or your investment vehicles so that you can add your first piece of real estate. It's all about diversifying what you've got. The returns on that piece of real estate, they exponentially grow the more time that you own that asset. And again, it's just diversifying, adding an asset that you sleep in with the money that you are going to spend with zero return on your rent. Now, am I repeating myself? Yeah, I am. Because I'm pissed off at the bullshit. I shouldn't be the only one out here showing you that there are options for first-time homebuyers to find affordability. Doesn't matter if you're $200,000 with only $2,000 saved, or you're an $800,000 buyer with $100,000 in the bank. The options are there. And the numbers that you've been told that you think you need, they're off by tens of thousands of dollars. With the right strategy, supported by the math and the numbers that benefit you, it's truly not rocket science. It's just a formula that far too few professionals are explaining to the first-time home buyers. So for you, look at the options: low down payment with affordable payments, seller credits, down payment assistance programs, a change in your investment contributions, on and on and on. These are the techniques that you can use. And go ahead and look at the numbers. I mean, people who invest in other things, they run numbers like this all the time. But home ownership, it has variables like no other investment. And the math is supremely tilted for those of you who own as soon as you can, so you can leave the rent trap. Hopefully you can do that way before you're 40 years old. There is no perfect time to buy a home. Nothing that's going to mathematically put you ahead because you waited it out. And that is mostly all because of one thing. Say it with me now, everybody. Low inventory. And I get it. I know there's a lot of doubters out there who don't agree with me. Well, I'm told you why you're not hearing this. It's because no one in real estate figures out a way to make money off of you. So I get it. There are people that are going to say, that doesn't make any sense. But, take a look. When did those people buy their last house? When was the last time they dealt with the rent increases like you have for the last 5 years, the last 10 years? Things are different now, man. The greatest loss that's happening in American wealth right now, that's that stupid average age of first-time home buyers. In the 80s, the average age of first-time home buyers was like 28, 29 years old. It's 40 years old now. That's 12 years of rent paid and 12 years of all the math that I laid out for you, the gains that you would make, 12 years of that lost. So to everybody in real estate and everybody on the news and everybody on Reddit who says that it's unaffordable for first-time home buyers because of those damn high prices and damn high mortgage rates, I don't buy it. And I'm not telling you this because I want you to get in my car this weekend and go buy a home so I can pay my mortgage. I'm telling you this because since 2013, I've watched first-time home buyers wait for something to drop so that they could afford it. It's not going to happen. The inventory's low. The demand is high and things are going to steadily move along. We're not going to increase 54% like we did the last 5 years. But every year that you don't buy a home, well, forget it. I told you all the math like 50 times already. You can do this and you should do this. And you now know the basics on the options that can make buying affordable so that you don't have to become one of those depressing statistics. I want you all to succeed. And yeah, I'm a little angry about the lack of information. And it's because I know that there are so many people clamoring for the solutions. So I hope this series has been helpful. And I hope that you've gained the confidence that you need. There's plenty more info on the podcast, and we're going to put the episode guide in the show notes too, so you can scroll through all the different titles and topics so you can keep yourself educated and motivated. Because don't believe the people who tell you it's impossible. You need to know you can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyaHome.com to get started.